Okay folks, welcome back to another budget gem or budget bust. And today I have got the very highly anticipated Zapco ST-4X SQ in for unboxing and a amp dyno today. I had a lot of requests for this amplifier before I did the ST-1350 XM2 that we did a while back, which was a refurb amp. But after that test, I got a lot more requests about this one because, again, this one is a big seller for Zapco, and the refurbed unit that I did of the 1350 was a disappointment. There is a little bit of a story that I'll get into, probably not a lot today, but later, and that is of that test. So that one was a refurb unit, and typically a refurb unit is an accurate representation as to what the amplifiers typically do in brand new, because they're just used normally just the case. Well, Zapco contacted me and said, we don't do refurbs. That was sent by our old supplier, or our old distributor in the United States, who we've switched, and we think they did a bad job with it. They ended up sending me a bunch of amplifiers, including another 1350 to test. This one was not one of those. I paid for this one with my own money. This one I bought from Woofers Etc. for $189. But needless to say, I did do another test of the 1350, which you're going to see coming up here on the channel fairly shortly. But that amplifier does perform differently, the brand new one. So I'm not going to spoil the video for you out there, but it's a lot better. So that got my hopes up for this one here, that we were not going to have a bust, and we're going to find out for sure. So this amplifier is the SQ oriented version of the ST-4X, or the X line that Zapco puts out. The X line is their Studio X line is their budget line of amplifiers. So these are designed by them, produced in their Chinese factory, and shipped here for a very reasonable price. Again, this one's $189. What makes this an SQ amplifier in their eyes is they changed the op amps, they changed the capacitors in the amplifier to a more audio grade level, and they changed the RCAs to a Tiffany style versus just a generic RCA input. And they say that actually makes this amplifier better sounding with a higher grade. So we're going to find all that out. I'm going to do some listening tests off camera, because if you know what I'm going to listen to, YouTube will ban me because I'm not going to listen to free stuff. And I'm going to see how this sounds, and of course we're going to strap it up to the amp dyno. We're going to find out just how much power this produces. So enough of this. Let's jump into the unboxing. Okay, opening her up. First thing we get is the owner's manual for the 2X and the 4X SQ model. Let's see if we can get the specs in here. I already know them. I mean, we're looking at 4 channels, 65 watts a piece at 4 ohms. We are looking at 95 watts a piece times 4 at 2 ohms. And we're looking at, say, 0.5%, 0.5% THD at rated power. Yeah. So this owner's manual does go into a lot of stuff in here. It talks about what makes this an SQ amplifier versus everything. I mean, I will say this is a very nice owner's manual here. Goes into a lot of detail on things that you don't normally see. I mean, you want to talk about comparisons, you know, Hyphonics doesn't even give you an owner's manual anymore. They're just like, here's how you hook it up, get lost. This one actually says, you know, hey, you know, we're going to make you feel good about why you bought this, what makes this amp special, you know, how do you hook it up, how you hook this up correctly, etc. So I like that. You know, when you're expecting a premium brand, you want them to give you a premium experience when you're buying something from them, even if it's the budget line. So that's pretty nice. Let's get the box out of here. I know, an unboxing with no box now. And along this side we get, this looks like some high input adapters, a pair of extra fuses, mounting screws, and one Allen key. Which, if that means I only need one Allen key to set this amp up, I'm going to be happy, because I hate when I need like 3 Allen keys for one amplifier, or they don't even include them and now I'm hunting to try to find the right Allen keys, etc. But enough of that. We'll get one amplifier. It's not a lot in the box. This is nice. This looks a lot like the other 1350 that we did, with a nice brushed black anodized finish along the top, along with kind of a polished aluminum. Granted, this is likely, no, this actually might be metal for the logo here. But that's a nice look that you got right there. So pretty nice looking amplifier. I was expecting a Class AB amp to be bigger, so that could be good. I mean, we're looking at just a little over 11 inches. If we're going end to end, the maximum footprint that we're going to have here is over 13, or just about 13 inches in terms of width, or length I should say. Width, we're about 6 1/4 inches, and height just under 2.5 inches tall. So this amp is going to fit in most places, but I really think you're going to want some type of ventilation around these. One of the things I do see on the internet is people talking about the heat that these generate, and they say these amps get hot very quick. Somebody I know who's got one of these, and they run down in, I believe, Louisiana, said that he's gone thermal on these a couple of times down in Louisiana heat, where 110 degrees plus humidity bumping away, the amp will protect itself, which is good, doesn't melt down, but he said he had to add a fan. So make sure you keep this in a well ventilated area, and I do wish they either gave this some more heat sink or a fan if it's going to have some thermal issues. But it's not lightweight, so it does look good. Let's check out the sides of the amplifier. Along this side of the amplifier we find our power and ground input terminals, as well as our speaker output terminals, in addition to our fuses. You can see here these power and grounds, you know, they are almost 4 gauge. You can't quite get this reducer in past the little metal ring inside. So you might be able to get 4 gauge wire in there, but you might have to shave it down a little bit. My suggestion would be to use a 4 gauge to 8 gauge reducer and slide that in there. I have one of those right here. It fits in absolutely no problem. Your speaker outputs, these are all 8 gauge. You can see here, no problem fitting in the reducer. So probably a little overkill on the speaker outputs for your speaker wire size, seeing as we're really only expected to get 95 watts per channel at 2 ohms. And fuses, we do have for Class AB the appropriate 25 amps times 2 for the fusing, for a total of 50 amps. So that should be more than enough to get all the power out of this amplifier. Again, we're only looking for sub 400 watts total. Along this side of the amp, we've got all of our settings as well as our RCA inputs and outputs. And this is kind of what you'd want to see in an SQ amplifier. So starting with the RCA terminals, these are our Tiffany style RCAs, which one of the things that you're paying for as part of the SQ series versus just regular the 4X2 is these, you know, upgraded RCA terminals using the Tiffany style, in addition to the audio grade caps, etc. And again, this amp is not set up for if you're going to run bridged and you're going to run subwoofers, because you can see here, over here, these are your front settings. You can either run full range or high pass. You can't run low pass on the front 2 channels. You can only run high pass or full range. And they don't even, so you can see here, there's no filter there for a low pass. And the high pass filter is adjustable from 80 hertz to 3 kilohertz on the fronts. Of course, there's your gain. You do have, of course, high-low inputs, high input adapters over here. The rear, they do allow you to do a subwoofer on the rear. So, if you are going to bridge the rear channels, you do have, of course, your option for low pass, full range, or high pass. You've even got levels of bass boost, as you can see here. I left it all the way to the left. No bass boost going on here. Your low pass filter is adjustable from 250 hertz down to 50 hertz. There is no subsonic filter, so you probably don't want to run this amplifier ported. High pass again is adjustable from 80 hertz all the way up to 3 kilohertz. You do have the option of having an auto turn on or off. So if you're running in a deck that doesn't have a remote turn on, so if you're trying to integrate this with a factory amplifier, or not factory amplifier, but a factory head unit, we're only using the high-low adapters, this would be a good option for you, because then you can just click this to on, and then when the signal is sensed through here, or the RCAs, the amplifier will then turn on, versus waiting for a 12-volt remote trigger. And of course you have your power and protection lights as well. Okay, nothing left to do here but to strap up the Zapco ST-4X SQ up to the old trusty amp dyno, and we are going to find out just how much power this very compact 4-channel Class A amplifier, or AB amplifier I should say, does. Are we overrated like the refurbed ST-1350, which again, that was probably a problem amplifier. It was a problem amplifier. Or is it underrated? Is it accurately rated? I don't know. We're going to strap it up, we're going to find out, and I'll see you after the test. Okay folks, final thoughts here on the Zapco ST-4X SQ. Yeah, you saw the results, and I feel confident in saying that this amplifier is accurately rated. It is not underrated. like some people might have hoped for with this amplifier, but it's not overrated like some of you who saw the 1350 refurb test that I did, which again, I think that was the problem with the refurb. But with this one here, we got what we paid for on this one. So we paid for 65 watts at 1 kilohertz at 4 ohms for 4 channels. We paid for 95 watts at 2 ohms at 14.4 at 1 kilohertz. That's exactly what we got. Actually got like 2 or 3 watts more. So yeah, this amp does what it says it's going to do. And I know some of you at home are probably going, you know, 189 bucks and I'm only getting 65 watts at 4 ohms. So, you know, that's not really the best value for me. But you got to remember there's other things that go into this amplifier. You've got the SQ aspect. I did plug this into speakers and it does sound really, really good. So you don't always really need, you know, 140 watts if you're just rolling around in your car. I mean, if you're looking for a good sounding sound quality amplifier, this is a good pickup. You know, it has a very low noise floor. I didn't hear any like static. I didn't hear any hiss or hum when the volume was already turned down. Just like, you know, you would think a decent amplifier would do, and this does it. It's not mind melting, but that's okay. It's a good quality brand, etc. Now I will say this, I didn't show it on camera, but I also did do some 40 hertz tests off camera, and the amplifier does come a couple of watts short when you do 40 hertz. That's okay. Again, the manufacturer tested it at 1 kilohertz. And I don't believe this amp was intended to run subwoofers. If you're going to run a subwoofer, buy another amp. You know, don't run this amp as, you know, running your fronts and then bridging for a rear. This is not your amp. This is an amp that what a lot of people are going to be doing is if they are going to bridge it, they're going to bridge the channels and they're going to run their fronts. So you'll have a left and right, and that's what's going to be run out of this. It's not going to be run where you've got 2 front channels running at 4 ohms and then bridged 4 ohms in the rear. 'Cause this isn't a good amp for that. But for highs, this amp is fantastic, and full range, the amp does sound very good. So, nice job, Zapco. For 189 bucks, I'm very confident saying, well, this is a budget gem. I really like the sound to it. In fact, I think I'm going to hook this back up and play around with it some more. It did sound really, really good. I got some triangle tower speakers here, which are SQ speakers. And so, you mix these two together, so nice. So, that's it for me, folks. I got more amps to test. Again, be on the lookout for the retest of the Zapco ST-1350. Spoiler, it does do better. But we're going to talk more about that in that video. So, I'll see you next time.